I'm going to go share check information
Okay.
I'm calling for. So can we link now? And
All
then
right.
assuming this is
Thank you for joining the session today. So, for today, we'll pick up from where we stopped the last time, right? Last
Yeah.
session, we were able to look at dynamic group and we started our discussion on external identities, basically, where we look at cross tenants, we look at all identities, then we discuss a bit around external identity with external collaboration. So
Yeah.
today we'll continue
they will have
our
so much.
discussions around that. So in inviting users to your organizations, I mentioned the B2B collaboration features right within the external identity ID that led you to invite guest users to collaborate with your organization. And we also mentioned that with B2B collaboration, you can securely share your company's applications and services with external users while maintaining control over your own corporate data, meaning that you can work safely and also securely with external partners, whether they are large organization or small organization. So even if they don't have a Microsoft Entra ID, as well as an IT department. So we give instances of where we have EXT. If you go to the users, well, we mentioned that the users with for external collaboration, we always have this hash EXT hash to show that they are typically guests in the tenant. So the guest could be the one that have an Entra ID. Like this tenant, this user now is coming from a tenant that has an external ID, right? Whereas this other user, if you go this is an Outlook or Gmail account, right? And it tell you how those users were created by invitation. That means the users were basically invited into the tenant by invitation, where they need to accept the invitations and all that. And we mentioned that in terms of collaborating with external ID or any partner using the identity, so the partner they use their own identity management solution. So there is no external administrative overhead for your own organization. Then we also mentioned that guest works with their own way of identity. And we mentioned some key features around that the partners uses their own identities and credentials. So whether or not they have Microsoft Entra ID accounts, you don't need to manage the external account or password. So you're not managing it at all. And you don't need to sync the account or manage the account lifecycle. So that is not part of your work here because who is managing it is still their own administrator. And we also mentioned that by default that B2B collaboration is enabled by default, meaning that you can actually check some admin settings to let you to configure your inbound and outbound B2B collaboration with external partners. And we mentioned that for B2B collaboration with external organization, right, you use tenant access settings. So we look into the cross-tenant access settings here and can manage the inbound, the outbound B2B collaboration, and also scope the access to specific users, can also scope access groups or application. You can also set a default configuration that applies to all external organization, then create for individual or organization specific settings. as needed. So this is where you do all the settings based on what you want to achieve as the administrator for your organization. And you can use external collaboration settings to define who can invite external users, allow or block B2B specific domains, and also set restrictions on guest user access to your directory. And another thing you can do is to use Microsoft Cloud settings to establish mutual B2B collaboration. We mentioned either for Microsoft Azure Global Cloud or Microsoft Azure Government or Microsoft Azure that is operated by 21 VNX. That's talking about the Chinese. Talking about the Chinese. So we
Yeah.
mentioned that so we can also allow a kind of self-service sign up, which was actually where we wanted to discuss further. So for self-service sign up, what does it mean self-service sign up? Then we are jumping into what we call the Azure B2C. So what is B2C? B2B is business to business. Then B2C is business to consumer. We mentioned that. So we sell with a self-service sign up user flow. You can create a kind of a sign up experience for external users who want to access your application. And as part of the sign-up flow, you can provide options for different social or external identity providers, and you can collect the information about the users using the information that has been set up. Although for this, majorly, what we do majorly for this, so we use a solution called customer identity and access management scenario. So for self-service sign up, essentially, it's actually like a big discussion on its own, meaning that it is actually is an essential feature for external ID workflows and customer scenarios, meaning it gives your partners, your consumers, and other external user a frictionless way to sign up and get access to your application without any intervention on your part. Like I mentioned, I give an example of the social applications like Facebook, for example. Now, Facebook, they have a website that is internal to the organization. So I'm not talking about the intranet now. A normal website like google.com now, they have a website that is like organization. If we talk about the Zenith Bank also, for example, now. So, but in B2B collaboration scenarios, you might not always know in advance who will need access to an application you want to share. So as an alternative to sending invitation directly to individuals, you can allow external users to sign up for specific applications for themselves by creating what we call a sign up user flow for B2B collaboration. But all these things are actually based on organizations requirements majorly. They're based on whether the organization wants to allow it or whether or not they don't want to allow it typically. So if you look at a scenario, for example, now when you want to add self-service sign up user flow to B2B collaboration, there are some prerequisites that are actually very important. First of all, for an application that you build as an organization, you can create a user flow that allow users to sign up for an application and create a new guest account. So a self-service sign up user flow defines a series of steps, right? A users can follow during the sign up and the identity providers that you allow them to use. So the likes of Facebook, they allow us to use if you want to create a Facebook account, maybe you want to use a phone number. I remember when I wanted to create my Facebook account, then I use a phone number, then later I change it to using my personal email. That was the Yahoo email thing. So whether you want them to be able to use Gmail, Outlook Mail, or any other thing, right? So the identity provider you allow them to use, and also the user attributes that you want to collect. They're very, very important. And you can associate one or more application to a single user flow. So meaning that you can associate user flow with an application that is built by your organization, and user flow cannot be used by Microsoft application. like the SharePoint or Teams. So it has to be an application that you guys built, meaning that your developer, you work with a group of developers, so they build the application, and the application has been added as an either as an enterprise application or an app registration, right? But if you want them to use applications like Microsoft Teams or SharePoint in your organization, those ones are not are not allowed. You cannot use them for, but it has to be an application, something like this, an application that's the organization has built yourself, not a Microsoft built application. SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, they are all Microsoft built applications. But the the likes of any other default application that you guys have built in your organization, maybe you have an application that is also a customer facing application, meaning that the application users basically can come up and sign up. Anybody today that is above 18 can sign up for Facebook, can sign up for Twitter, right? X, or they can even sign up for YouTube, Gmail,
Yeah, for sure.
right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so so that is actually how it works. So it can't be an application that your organization subscribe to. It has to be an application that you guys set up basically. And again, in our discussion last time, we talked about Microsoft Entra ID, which is actually like the default identity provider for self sign up, self service sign up, right? Meaning that users are able to sign up by default with a Microsoft Entra account. And in your self-service sign up user flow, you can also include social identity providers, the likes of Google and the Facebook, Microsoft accounts. Google meaning Gmail, Facebook, the Facebook account, or Microsoft account, or an email one-time password features, right? From those social applications, the default one that we looked at for the identity providers, right? So built in already, these are already built in for us. Yeah. So it is very important that, which is will be optional, you can define the custom attributes. So the custom user attributes saying that, okay, what do you really want to collect about this user? So by default, you will see that already they want to collect the city, the country or the region, right? That the user is going to sign up from, because it's very important. So they were able to basically tailor the advertisement. I remember when I was still in Nigeria, right? If I sign into YouTube, right? Let's say I want to watch something. The experience is different from when I relocated from Nigeria. The kind of ads that I'm seeing, they're different because they recognize that the region has changed. So you want to collect attributes on display name, right? Given name, job title. So this is majorly right optional in terms of the custom attributes you want to do. It's optional. So if you want to define custom, you just click on add here, then you can put what you want to put at a custom add attribute. So let's say I want to collect, let me see what is not here. Phone number, let me just put phone number, for example, and to collect phone number of the user. So the here is just for me to select what is the, so string means that something like this, so called string. Then Boolean, if you are using Boolean, Boolean is yes or no, on or off. Those are Boolean. The integer is maybe doesn't want to use. So I can just see the phone number of the user and I create. So it just added it as a custom attribute, right? That I've created. So we can add as many custom attributes, but again, it is basically optional. User attributes are majorly values that you collect from the user during the self-sending site up, right? And
Okay.
Entra ID itself, as you can see, it comes with a built-in set of attributes, but you can
Okay.
always create custom attributes,
Custom ones. Okay.
yes, for your user flow, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. Then to enable self sign up for tenants. Usually, before you can add a self-service sign up user flow to your application, you need to enable the feature for your tenant first. Then controls become available. Then let you associate user flow to application. So for this now, I think you should be able to do this because you can either be a global admin or at least a user administrator to do this. So
For
from
the
the
attributes, right? To
yes,
create those custom attributes.
yes, to actually create to actually enable self-signing, self-service sign up for your tenants. So if you go to external identities and go to the external collaboration settings, right? So under enable user self-signing, me, oh yeah, first, okay. External identities, external collaboration settings. So if you see now, it says enable guest self-signing setup via user flow. So this is on, right? If I turn
Yeah.
this off, so what it means is that that features that would not be available for users to use. The feature will not be available for users to use majorly. So if this is not on, you can't use the feature. That's what it means. Users cannot use that self sign up. Can't use it.
Okay.
That's what
Okay.
it means. So that's one of the things that you have to check when you're dealing with external identity, right? You have to check it. And to go back to creating user flow for self sign up. So under the self service sign up here, you just click on the user flow here. Then you can
Okay.
select a new user flow. So if you notice, when you click on create, right, automatically there is this prefix here. So Microsoft will have this prefix. Should I say B2X? B2. So the X means that it can be a B2B or B2C,
Or B2C.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it means. That's why I say B2X, right? Then another thing you have to put a name for the user flow. I can say user flow for Facebook. So if you want users to be able to sign in with their Facebook account, make that.
Or maybe an internal application, or maybe an application that is an public facing application.
Sorry, can you say that again?
I said, or maybe like a public facing application, right?
Yes.
Maybe it's
It's
B2C.
yes, is basically is for you to be able to allow users. So if you can even have an application, if you have not created this, it will not be possible for users to even sign up for it.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
It will not be possible. So next thing is to select the identity providers, right? So you can select one or more. So maybe I want to create user flow for all. But before we create this, let me copy this for now. Go back to next identity. Identity providers here. Let me see what is needed to configure this. Okay, yeah, I'll need a client ID and client secret. So I need to have like a credential. Google. Okay, I don't have Google business account. All right. For Facebook, let me see. Yeah, Facebook developer account. All right. So let me just maintain this user flow. I can just say these are for fun applications. Okay. So because I don't have those orders configured yet, so that's why they're not showing under the identity provider. So I need to have like a business account for those ones. So I can select. So this is by default because once you're a member of this, because I'm creating this on the Entra ID, and that's the old name, Azure Active Directory Sign Up. So I'm using Microsoft account, meaning that any user that has at outlook.com, at hotmail.com, at live.com, right? They'll be able to sign up for this application. Don't know if that makes sense.
100%. Yes, 100%.
All right. So the next is to select the user attributes. So I want them to provide this, this, this. So depending on what is on, you can click on show more here to see more. I want it to provide these, and this. And say okay. Email address by default checked. Okay. So those are the few that they'll be seeing when they are signing up for their accounts. All right, so the new user flow has been created. So you see that it tells us it's for both sign up and sign in. All right. So by going to the user flow, I can set up other things, right? That I want to. You can do a bit of some customization. Either I can, if I don't need this particular user flow, I can altogether delete it, right? So for the settings, if I click on under identity providers, so these two select. If I want to add more, I can just select it, add more to it. So if I had Facebook, maybe initially I just want to test the application using the user flow for users with Microsoft accounts only. I can start with that. Then I still have the option for those other ones. Then I can click on save that. Then I can select some user attributes. So if there's an attribute I feel that I don't need again from all these attributes. Okay, I don't want their phone number. I don't want their street address. I'm just interested in the country also. I can also select that.
I can't hear you anymore.
Hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now. Yes, I can now.
Okay. All right. The attributes.
The network looks like the network
So
is
there is
breaking.
it's breaking. Let me check. Let me check.
Mhm.
Yeah, is it better now?
Yes, it's better now.
All right. Thank you for that. So for if you want to use an API connector too, so you have this available, but there's nothing that is created for this API. So nothing. So what we're interested in is actually the customization. So in terms of customization, we want to select the page layout. So at the point of signing up, what are the things that should come first? What should they provide first? Should they provide after their email? Should they provide Can move this one up. I want this to also come up. Then city, then country or region, right? Then if there's an application that I want to add, then I'll be able to add the application also. But before then, so this already tells us, okay, this is a surname, right? This is the display name is a text box as well. Email address is also a text box. So that's basically arranging the way I want the whole thing to show. And I can save that to update that. All right. So if there is also language, maybe there are particular region that I'm targeting, right? There's some language that I want to select. I have the option also for the language here. Then I come down here to use which application do I want to use this for? So here, if I have an application, I can add an application. Let me see if there's any application that can be added. Okay, so let me use this app to here. So meaning that that particular user flow, the application is what will be using it. And if I want to use multiple applications, obviously I can select them. So this is great already because it's already showing that I'm using the application. So if I want to use this application also, and select. So meaning that all those applications, so just one at a time. So select. All right. So I have those applications there already. So basically that's how you had the application. Application can be signed up for using that particular user flow, basically. You have a
So
question?
even yeah, so after this is done, if anybody wants to access that, say for example, that app2 application is open for them to be able to access it now, like a customer. That's what it means. They can
So
sign up.
you
Or
have
is
to
there anything else
provide
that needs?
information onto the how the application will be how the link to the application basically. So let me see if the um all up. I can't even see, okay, this is the app here, demo
I
app
think I think we use that app too.
and an app too,
Uh,
yeah. So
yeah.
for each of these applications, if you go to manage here, go
Mhm.
to properties. So the application will have URL.
It doesn't
Let
have
me
URL.
see. Properties. So the URL of the application, usually at the point of creating the application, right? You
It's
provide a
supposed to come
URL.
up, right?
Yes, so it's URL that we provided to the user. Let me go to app registration with the app. So we'll have inserted the URL of the application here. You understand? So let's say http whatever demohub.com. So this URL, right? That will be provided to the user. Just like you want to sign into Facebook, you have to know the URL to go to sign up. You understand? So once the URL is provided, so they will see the sign in based on the developers, what developers as customers sign it and sign up. So just click on
Yeah.
sign up. So the sign up process is now will not take them through the user workflow that will just
Mhm.
create it now,
Okay.
basically.
Okay. That is that. Okay. So easy. So normally when developers are developing, say for example, this app on Azure. So
Yeah,
I mean, developers can do everything on Azure, right? And once they've developed the applications, then the other responsibility in terms of how sign-on will be configured will be the responsibility of the IAM team and stuff like that.
exactly. So
So
what
basically
you're doing
follow.
after developers are that done with the yeah, thank you for that. After developers are done with the applications, right?
Hmm.
Now the owners they now said, okay, these applications, right, wants users to be able to access it. Sometimes the application maybe is being hosted on prem in the mentioned
Okay.
data center, right?
Hmm.
And because it's local, so they have to come here. They have to that's where they will collaborate with you. Okay, this application, this is the application here, and the application is currently hosted here. Want to register the applications on Azure. So you as the administrator, you just come to either you go to home through from home to enter ID. So you go to app registration here.
Hmm.
So app registration, you want to register the application. Okay. So they'll like giving the name they want to use for the application, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's, so there'll be like kind of a documentation for all this already. So the
Okay.
platform for the application, right? Okay, this application is
Okay.
going to be a public client on native mobile. So meaning
Okay.
that you'll be able to download it locally, right?
Okay.
Or it's going to
Okay.
be a web application. You select this,
Okay.
put the URL. Yeah,
Okay.
a single
Okay.
page. So once you put the URL and you
Uh,
register the applications,
register.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
So this is just a redirect URI
You are
to
right.
help
Okay.
yeah, just to
Okay.
help users to authenticate
Okay.
successfully,
Okay.
into the application. So once
Okay.
that is done, I don't want to register on that application. So once that is done, let's say okay for now. I know it's not showing the application there. Once that is done, so if you want to further customize the app, so you go into the application itself, right? That's when you do the branding and properties. You put it, so there's maybe a logo that was provided. You want to upload
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You can upload the logo. Okay. Maybe the
it.
company logo
Then
and
if there
stuff
are some
like.
terms of service, yes, you do all those ones. So what is
But
important
are you able to
is
see it
um,
before? Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
After putting all the logos and everything, you are able to see it live yourself before even putting it on general availability to the public, right?
Okay, let me give you a scenario whereby the application is hosted on prem. So there are
Mhm.
other things that are actually involved, right?
Okay.
Let's say, for example, now, this application is hosted on prem in a server in your organizations, for example, now. What it means is that it is only the users based on what is configured at the network level, users within the organization that will be able to access it. So that's where the point of what we call the DNS servers comes in, right? So from the DNS servers, you've bought a domain from a domain registrar. Let's say the godaddy.com. You bought the domain from them, right? The domain to be used for so you now want to link that domain to an external, a public facing IP, right? You know what is domain doing? Is helping you to resolve what the domain name to an IP, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
since you have an external IP or public facing IP, right? That is what will link to the domain name, and it is the domain name that will be here. Such that once they click on that domain, the DNS server will do its work and redirect the users, right? So where the application is hosted in your on-prem. If the application is hosted in a cloud, maybe in Azure, any other location too, the same thing is applicable as well, right? Maybe you want to use an app service domain. Maybe, for example, you've bought some app service domain that you use, and you've enabled maybe express routing already, just for traffic to come outside into your Azure tenant. right? But let me leave it with the on-prem environment now. So the application automatically, what it means that this URL, once is a good URL, you just open a new tab and you paste it. You paste the URL, HTTP, right? It's a good URL, right? Demoapp.com. It's going to go to the site. So at that point, you've registered the application as a web.
Yeah.
Strange. There was even something like that. Right. So it's going to show something like this.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the application already, developer has already done the configuration, both the front end and the back end guys, they've done the configuration already, right? So
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
front end part, you see something like sign up or
Yeah.
sign in.
Yeah.
So
Username.
it's
Then
a
now be asked for
yes,
email.
exactly. So what you have already configured here as part of the user flow for the application is what will not take place at this point here.
Yeah. Got you.
Because user flow has already been linked already, right, to the application on the backend. We've already done the user flow to this particular user flow, and this
Uh-huh.
user flow is already linked to the application,
Which is the demo app.
demo app and app two. So they will use the same user flow.
Mm-hmm.
So meaning that once everything has been configured correctly, right, the DNS servers, the domain name has been linked to the correct address or the IP address, I mean, you'll be able to reach the application from external. And users also internally will also be able to reach the application, right? So once they call this URL, it locates that, oh, this application is currently on a server, on an on-prem, and it's direct, and this will show as a web application. Then the
Mm,
sign-up process not kicking once user is ready to sign up for the application. So that's how it works, basically.
mm, interesting.
Does it make sense? Yeah, those are
Yeah,
the things
yeah.
that happen from the
It does
back
make
end,
sense.
yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the other one for these, so basically for the self sign up, right? I mentioned that it can be a B2B collaboration scenario. Um, Meaning that you might not know or you might not always know in advance who will need access to applications that you want to share, right? So alternative is as an alternative to sending invitation that we did the last class, sending invitation directly to users. You can allow external users to sign up for specific application for themselves. All you just need to do is to provide them with the
Yeah,
URL of the application and they will follow the user flow.
that's all.
So yeah. So the same thing. So for the other one we call apart from B2B, there's another one called CIAM in a
Okay.
customer
Yeah.
identity and access management scenario, right? So it is important you had a self-service sign-up experience, the application you built for customers, and you can basically do this by configuring a self sign-in user workflow majorly. So you can
Please, I
either
need you to
plan.
explain more about this CM for me. I need more explanation on it.
Yeah, 1 second. So for CM itself as an application is also more or less a B2B,
Oh, it's
right?
a B2B, not B2C?
So rather it's a
It's it,
B2C for customer,
oh, okay. Okay.
B2C, yeah, for customer
Okay.
direct. It's B2C. So for in terms of planning for customer identity and access management, right? So
Mm-hmm.
generally the Microsoft Entra ID is customizable and is an extensible solution for adding the customer identity and access management to your application because it's built on the Microsoft Entra platform. And for this, you can benefit a kind of consistency in the application integration, tenant management, and operations across your workflows and also for customer scenarios. So basically, when you're designing for CM, it is important to understand the components of what is external tenants and the Microsoft Entra feature that are available for your customer in your customer scenario. So they must be an external tenant, not the internal tenant now.
Okay.
So the first thing is you're creating an external tenant. You have to create an external tenant, not the internal tenant. After you
Okay.
create the external tenant, you register your application on the external tenant, just like this
Okay.
as well.
Okay.
Then
Okay.
you can now integrate a signing workflow to your application by following those
Okay.
two steps,
And that
creating
will
a
be
user
done on
workflow
the
on that external
Siam
tenant.
tenant. Okay.
Yeah, exactly, to be done there.
Okay.
Then
Okay.
the next is just to customize and secure your signing basically. So really to create an external tenant, there are like a few license requirements that you must actually have. Let me get a URL for that, if I can get that. Okay, so if you go to the Entra ID, and you click on Manage Tenant here. So once you
Okay.
just get it, so if you click on Create here,
Mm-hmm.
so you select this B2C tenant.
B2C. Okay.
This one is for internal users,
Yeah.
corporate, business to
Yeah.
business, while this is for external users.
Okay.
Then can you just click on Next for configuration, put the name, put the name, right? Once you're done, have one of, once you're done with all these things, once you're done with creating, yeah, let me just put demo app, external tenant, demo app. So that'll be the name of the directory also. Demo app dot on Microsoft.com. That's what it's going to be. Then the region where you want the tenant to be. Let me leave it at this is another directory. So let me select another region, UK. Let me select this. I'm not sure I've used this before. Okay, so the name is already being used. I need
Yes.
to demo app one. It's allowed, okay, it's allowed that.
Already used as well. Okay.
Okay, so it's available only for United States. Then the subscription that you have, because that's to sit on your subscriptions. Then if you have a
Okay.
resource group, you can select the resource group or you can create a resource group.
Create a new resource
So
group. Okay.
let me just go to, let me use that next review. So it's just create for you. So once it creates for you, let's go back how it will look like. So go back to manage tenants. So this particular one here is a B2C. You can see it is shared tenant name, Azure AD B2C. Yeah,
Okay.
tenant type. That's how you know use an
Okay.
external tenant. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So it's going to create that.
So that one is a Siam tenant, Abi?
It's the same tenant.
Okay.
It's an external tenant basically.
Okay.
So you have to go into that particular tenant basically to do anything. So this will give you more details about the tenant, any of the organization. So if you come up here to switch
How
directory,
mu- Okay.
so you can now switch into that particular tenant.
Tenants. Okay.
So you are not in your primary tenant again once you switch. You are
Okay.
now in the Azure B2C tenant.
B2C
So
tenant. Okay.
because the same username can actually sign into that particular tenant as well.
Okay.
So it's just like a global admin for multiple accounts basically,
Mhm.
right? So to tell you, say the tenants need to switch now. So this has
Okay.
changed. So you know
Okay.
that you are already in this tenant. So the same way, the application, so the apps will be registered on this tenant.
Okay. You can now register the app,
They have on this particular tenant,
create a
right?
user flow as well.
Exactly. So like that.
Okay.
So that's how it works
But I have a
for this.
question though. What is
Just
the
go
use
ahead.
case? What is the use case for this?
For external, so that you'll be able
Yeah.
to users from users that are
You don't
not
want.
your part, that are not your partner, that
Okay.
you're collaborating on any internal project or so. They are only
Okay.
just that they want to access application
Okay.
and use. So it's a B2C scenario, actually. The B2C,
Okay.
business to customers, not business to business scenario.
Business. Okay. Okay.
It's business to customer scenario. So once the external tenant has been created, register your account, then integrate a sign-in flow to your application. Then you can customize and secure your signing basically.
Okay.
So the bulk of the work is actually at the point of you doing the branding and also extending the authentication token and configuring MFA for it. Then using native application or even using security and governance, right?
Mm,
So that's it. That's the use case of an Azure B2C. But you must have a
oh,
subscription
interesting.
here also for you to be able to do that.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So once that is
So
done, we can now make available the IP to the public.
so not the IP. So
Sorry,
the
I said the IP, the URL I wanted to say.
the URL, yes.
Yeah,
So the URL. URL is already linked to an IP on the DNS
an
server or
IP.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Makes sense. Easy peasy.
Awesome. So another thing I want to look at is things around using policy to securely share your applications and services.
Okay.
So you can basically use either authentication and authorization policies to protect your corporate tech content. So as an organization, you must protect your data, right? Anything that is actually your corporate content. And consumer access policy actually, such as multi-factor authentication can be enforced. And there are like different levels in which they can be enforced. You can enforce conditional access policy at the tenant level. You can also enforce it at the application level. It can also be enforced at specific guest users to protect corporate accounts. What do I mean? So if you go to users here, for example, for these users now, you so call per user MFA here. Or let's start from the tenant level. If I go to the intra ID tenant, okay, I need to switch back because this tenant doesn't have any subscriptions. I need to switch back to my account because I won't be able to do anything here. Manage tenants. Switch back to this one. Either it's the switch here or come up here, switch directory, and switch here. Correct. So if I go under, if I type either conditional access or just go security, mix of intra conditional access. So any policy I create here is going to affect the tenant in terms of my application services. Because here for this, if I put the policy tenant and you can assign this to all users. So if you notice it, don't look yourself out. This policy will affect all of your users. We recommend applying policy to some set of users. So it's always very, very important, right? So let me see selected group. So can you say, okay, this policy, I'm creating it to specific guest or external user, right? So I can select this, okay, I have B2B guest users, B2B. So these are guest users, external users. So I can select it at this point. Then for application level, I go to here, for example, okay, that's me granting the policy. Go back home. So Java policy is configured is affecting the entire tenant. Let me go to an enterprise application, for example, and I click on security. So at the tenant level, that's the Entra ID. Entra ID. Security. Set. So this is the Entra level here. You notice that I came here from the Microsoft Entra itself. I went to security here, down here, under security conditional access. So it's not something to actually, you have to actually plan it before you create conditional access so that you don't lock yourself out. Very important. So any policy I create here at this point is going to affect this, the Entra. That means it's affecting the whole tenant. I don't know if that makes sense. Yes, any doubt?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Makes sense.
Okay. So also, if I go back home, go to an enterprise application, and I pick an application. Let me just pick this same demo app here. So
Okay.
for this application here, if I go to security here and I apply conditional access, so this is happening at the application level
Okay.
because we want to actually be very sure what we're doing. That's considered is something that you actually need to sit down to plan, right? We're still going to go deep dive into it by the time we talk about managing authentication and authorizations, right? We're going to deep dive into it. I just hope I will not lock myself out. But again, you have to actually plan it. And it's always very important that there's what we call a break glass account. That account must be exempted from conditional
That's the
access.
admin account, right?
So it's an admin account, but like back a um a backup account majorly,
Okay.
meaning that
Okay.
even though every user is locked out, all the admins are locked out, that particular admin will not be locked out.
Will not be locked out. Okay. I have a question though.
Yes.
So instead of if you go to if we set the conditional access policy on the intra level, then you now specifically go to an application, you pick, oh, okay, you will not have, is it that it's only M365 application that you'll be able to apply the conditional access policy to on Entra? That is
No,
why you have to probably come to enterprise
no,
application too.
no. Remember, I say all enterprise applications are not, they're not like M365 application. They're not SharePoint, they're not Teams. the application that you have built
Okay.
for
So are you
users in your
saying
tenant or
okay?
for customers.
So the reason I'm saying this is from the intra ID.
Um,
Um, if we go to the conditional access policy there,
yes.
and after creating the conditional access policy, are we able to select some of those applications on the enterprise application to
So the
enforce?
application will be able
Are we able to
the application will be
enforce?
able to select at the tenant level are those Microsoft applications.
Oh, that's exactly what I want to clarify.
They are the
Okay,
Microsoft applications for the
okay,
tenant.
okay.
Maybe
So you
you
will
don't
not
want
be able
users
to
to be able to access SharePoint, you don't want them to access
SharePoint.
Teams, yeah,
Okay,
all those
okay,
things.
Teams. Okay, got you. But not enterprise application. You'll not be able to do that for enterprise application.
No, it's not. It's not.
Okay,
So at
so
the enterprise
enterprise
application
applications,
level,
you have to create another condition access policy for those ones.
yes, if there is
Okay,
need. So it's
if there
not
is
as if
need.
it's if there is need,
Okay,
yeah.
if there is need.
Because
Okay,
if you notice for this now, so these focus on these two controls. The first control is on when user is outside your company network. What should be
okay,
the control? They should be they're required to
okay,
sign with MSC. When
okay,
users are managers group in signing, so there are conditions that you can state, and this only affects this particular applications here.
only. So if you have more than one application and you want to set or is needed to set condition access policy, it will be done on each of those applications.
Yes,
Okay,
differently. So based on
differently.
what
Okay,
you want to achieve, yes,
once.
based on what you
Okay,
want to achieve.
okay, I understand now.
Then if you want the policy to affect all these enterprise applications, for example, now, so instead of going inside any of the application, then the other time I went inside this demo application. So you'll be able to see where you are by this, right? I'm
Hmm.
inside this application. So when anything I set here
Yeah,
only affect this application.
this
But
application.
if I
Okay,
but if I want to affect all these application here, I have to be outside the application. I don't need to select an application here. I'll still come to my under my security here, then select conditional access. Yeah.
okay. So you mean if you want to set it for all applications
All the applications in the enterprise application.
in the enterprise? Okay, 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 okay. I understand.
So this is telling me I'm in home, I'm in
Mm,
enterprise application conditional access. So this will affect all enterprise application
okay,
because I
okay,
get target resources here. So the
okay,
target resources would show me, okay, all resources from all cloud, all internet, select resources.
okay, okay. Now I understand.
Yeah. All right. So setting container depend on where you are majorly. And you
Mm,
can also let either applications and group owners to manage their guest users. Maybe there are some people in the organization, right? You want to delegate so-called guest user management to either the application owner, meaning that they can add guest users directly to any application they want to share. So whether it is a Microsoft applications or not. So if you come down to in enterprise application, let me go to all app. So by default, right, when creating applications, there should be an application owner. So that means in enterprise application itself, we have applications owner. You can assign owner to an application. So under manage here, just select owners. You can add owner to the application. So meaning that once you add an owner, the owner of the application can simply grant the ability to manage all aspects of the enterprise application. So the owner will be able to assign things to the application without even them needing to come to meet you as admin.
mm,
Once you delegate an owner to an application. So
mm.
then you are reducing your um your administrative overhead in terms of okay, you want to delegate a user guest management to application owner so that whenever they need to add guests directly to any application they want to share, they can do that. So what an administrator needs to do is just to set up a self-sign up app and a group management. Then the non-administrators can use their own access panel, right? They can use an access panel to add users to an application or group. So
Okay.
for example, now if I go to my app, so my app now. Yeah, actually my app.microsoft.com. I'm an owner of an application. Is it my app? Let me confirm that. URL is my apps. My apps. My apps.microsoft.com, for example, now. So if you're an application owner in a tenant or in a directory, right? Once you go to my apps.microsoft.com, you will see apps that you own in the tenant, right? So these are all the apps I own, whether they're
Okay.
Microsoft app. So based on this user that is signing, right? So with
Yeah.
this now, I can, so let's say for example, let me pick one of these app, this skill feature, for example, as I click on these three ellipses, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll have the option to manage your application because I own the application.
Okay.
So,
There's something
so I need,
wrong.
yeah, because there's still permission that needs to be, and it needs to do a kind of a consent by applications. Like
Okay.
I need
Okay.
to,
Okay.
yeah. So once I'm able
Okay.
to do this, I'm able to do anything that I want to do on this application. Scale fishing. Let me add let me see. Let me have this guy as the owner. Okay. Owner. Right. Still taking time to propagate. That's not that makes it at times. So with this now you can actually copy the link and share this link with somebody. A guest that wants to invite for them to basically sign up into it. So that's for B2C. Then another thing you have to note, see on external identities, right? You can
Okay.
also customize the onboarding experience for your B2B guest user. That means you can bring your external partners on board in a way to customize to your organization need. Well, we discussed that further when we deep dive into authorization. We will discuss that further. So we just discuss everything together. We usually call Microsoft Entra ID entitlement management to configure the policies to manage access for external application. So if I go here and go home, type entitlement management. So you see that's actually under identity governance. So we'll explain because you need to have a kind of connected organization first, connect to a partner organizations, then create catalogs. Catalogs meaning that you want to create what are the things that the set of application that users need to be able to have access to. This catalog will now be added to an access package. So it's this access package that will be assigned, right, to those users basically.
Okay.
When we discuss authorization further, we'll discuss it further. Because this is actually one of the big thing about one of the big service in identity governance. So the entitlement manager is actually an identity governance features that enables some organization to manage identity and access lifecycle at scale by automating what we known as the access request workflows, access assignments, and also review and expirations. Meaning that people in organizations, when people in organization need to access various groups, they need to access various applications, and also this also work with them SharePoint online sites to perform their job. So most of the
Okay.
times managing this access is actually challenging because as requirements change. So new applications are added or users need more access rights. So sometimes it can actually get more complicated when you collaborate with external organizations, right? Because first
Yeah.
you might not even know who in the other organization need access to your organization resources, and they don't even know what application or groups or sites, right, that your
Yeah.
organization is using. So this
Mm-hmm.
entitlement management, it helps you to more efficiently manage access to groups, application, SharePoint online sites for internal users, and also for users that are actually outside your organizations.
Okay.
That's one of the things that it does. So we'll deep dive into it. So it's under our authorization, be able to deep dive better into it to see how it works. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's go back here. And there's also what called B2B collaboration invitation API. That's also another feature, right, that you can use, but is actually out of the school. Just want to mention it to you.
Okay.
What it does, yeah. So the it's in my Microsoft API, right? B2B represents an invitation that is used to add external users to an organization as part of business to business collaboration in the Microsoft Entra ID, external ID, basically. And in terms of invitation, the invitation process using a flow. An invitation is created first, then an invitation that contains an invitation link is set to the invited users. The invited user selects the invitation link, sign in, and redeem the invitation. The user entity that represents the invitation user is created, and the user is redirected to the specific page after the completion of redemption of after it has completion after redemption has been completed basically, right? So it uses Microsoft Graph APIs, which is outside our discussion, but I just want to mention it so you be aware, right? Then if you go back to our external identity, I think we mentioned this about other identities that we have, all identity provider. So we mentioned that in terms of integration with external identities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And actually external ID supports external identity providers like the likes of Facebook, Microsoft accounts, Google, or even some other enterprise identity provider. And you can set up a federation with the identity provider, meaning that your external users can sign into their existing social or enterprise accounts instead of creating an account just for your application. So
Yeah.
somebody, maybe a user in some organization you are trying to partner with. I remember this was a very common scenario. Some partner organizations wanted to work with our organization, right? But what they are
Okay.
using is sorry, what they're using is G Suite. They're using Google for Business, G Suite, and we are using Microsoft. And they need access into um some resources on our Azure. So you have to create an external identity for them. But again, it's gonna be a long shot, right? It's gonna be a long shot because for identity providers generally what they depending on what the accounts that the user is using, like let's say for Google Federation, for example now. Google Federation allows external users to redeem invitation from you by signing into your applications. So they have to use their Gmail account, right? So
Yeah.
you have to basically create self-service sign-up workflow also for that particular one. Meaning that if you look at this has to be customized, meaning you have to get their client ID, provide a client secret, right? And this will be configured for them. So this is configured showing green like this. These tenants cannot collaborate with somebody that is using Google accounts. Basically,
Okay. Okay.
cannot be, it cannot.
Okay. Okay. So that
And by
configuration come first.
yes, yes, configuration must come first, both for Google and for Facebook.
Okay.
So again, you must configure your Facebook account first and client secrets, which is let me see for this. So you have to do these, go these. So you cast a Facebook developer account and this requires a lot of stuff to put in. So you can let me just share this with you. You can just check this
Yeah, no
to
problem.
if you want to just try your hands on it. Seems to be a good
Yeah,
thing.
sure. Yeah, for sure.
Think out for that's for Facebook, now for Google yeah as well. You can just give it a try.
I'll give it a
Yeah. So usually it's always very interesting when you to provide step by step for you. So let's set up this first. And project name, create that. That's yeah. Please continue. So there's also so apart from the external identity, there's also a kind of integration with SharePoint and online and OneDrive rather, because most
okay.
times one of the reasons why users are collaborating, right? They want to be able to collaborate on SharePoint files, right? And you can also enable integration with SharePoint and OneDrive, basically to share files, to share folders in SharePoint, list items, document library, and also sites with people that are outside the organization while using the Azure B2B authentication and management. So the users you share resources are typically girls in your directory, and the permission and groups work the same way for these users as they do for your internal users. So when you
Okay.
enable the integration of SharePoint and OneDrive, you can also enable the email one-time passcode. This one, right? Features to serve as a fallback authentication. So this is always used as a fallback authentication. Yeah, I wanted to ask something.
No, no, I'm not. I'm just listening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, you have to actually do all those enabling using um PowerShell. Basically, let me show you. Maybe I have it. I'm not sure. So we go to PowerShell. We have to run it as an admin. So right click and run it as an admin. Okay. And you have to download the latest SharePoint online module for it.
SharePoint Online.
Yeah, so if you're going to use PowerShell, you have to actually download the SharePoint online module. So there's actually a link to So download that. Let me share the link here in the chat. So drop the link in the chat. So from that link, you just see the download button. Let me open it here. So you just click on download here.
Okay.
So once it's downloaded, same progress. Okay, it's done. So this is how it looks like. You can see. So just double click on it to run it. So these are to open. Just accept. So it's just the way you install application basically. So it's going
Okay.
to, if you don't download this, it's not going to allow you to use SharePoint command on the PowerShell. That's what it means, right?
Oh, yeah, for
It
sure.
doesn't need to allow you. Yeah. So once you download, you'll be able to run PowerShell commands. Don't know how long that will take to run. So once that downloads, let me see if I'll be able to. Repeat. So there's a PowerShell command. You first run to check if it has been downloaded. You run this get mode name Microsoft.online.SharePoint PowerShell list available. So this will check if you already have SharePoint online running. Okay, nothing. You can also install the module to be sure. So you give it time to install. It's because I've not actually used SharePoint on this system before. I've not had to run PowerShell command. So if it is installed, so you have to give it time to install. So the main command that we need to connect is actually to enable, because you can, there's no GUI, there's nowhere here to enable it,
Yeah,
right?
there's
There's
no.
nothing on GUI. So once there's nothing like that, so the other option is to run PowerShell.
Okay.
I think this is still installing. Okay, so just say yes here. Y, just type Y.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still installing. So I'm going to step Y. Still installing that, so I guess let's see, can finish. Okay, so just run the command set SQL tenant enable Azure AD B2B integration to true. Okay, that's not install. So once it has not installed the module, it will be giving error like this. I don't see it. Installing, so let's see why here. Yes, install. It
Installing.
tells you there. Installing.
I think it's completed, have you?
Once it's completed, you need to let me know. I'll be able to
Okay.
show me something like this. To show me
Oh,
something like this. Something like I can run the next command. Yeah,
okay.
it's completed. So it's still installing resume. So once everything is done, it's just to run this command set SPO that will
Okay.
enable it. So I'll put that for you in the chat in case you want to try it out also.
Mhm.
Need to take a while to install because it's installing the entire repository.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually that is done to if you have users that you want to share resources, that request your directory and permission and group work the same way for those guests basically. I think that's a quick introduction for the to see there.
Nice.
Let me see. So in terms of recommendation, how do we recommend it to see? That's all we've actually looked at so far. I'm trying to pick the next topic. So, now, how do we secure external identities? How do we secure all those things? Other things that are actually available for us, we can see things around subscriptions where we will see there are subscriptions that are linked, right?
Hmm.
You're able to link it. So for this now, if I want to link my subscriptions from this tenant, just select this and link the subscription hub here. You're right. Based on maybe it's limited to
I have a
this
question. By
source
default,
code.
Yep. Are the subscriptions not usually okay? Subscription is different from tenants. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So subscriptions can only stay in one entry ID, right?
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
go to this, because I'm in my primary entry ID now, which is the
Mhm.
primary one. So on that overview, I'll be able to say, okay, this is my primary entry ID.
Yeah.
On this now, if I go to subscriptions, I'll be able to see all the subscription that I have access to in this directory.
Okay.
I have access to subscription. Now, if
Okay.
I go back to Azure B2C tenants, let me go here and manage tenants, then select this one, the default, mark as default, or let me just switch there.
Hmm.
No sense, I prefer to switch there, switch directory. So I'm switching to this B2C tenant now. Just like that one. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm in so you can see the tenant I am here. If you go
Yeah.
here and go to intra ID here. So I'm in this Masamoro here. So
Mhm.
if I type subscription here, I will not see any subscription. Why? Because subscription can only stay in one tenant. That
Okay.
means
Okay.
The other option
Okay.
I have is to buy another subscription for this tenant here. So which will check
Okay.
the eligibility for it. But something I can do if I don't want to buy subscription again, please don't even allow me to even have subscription. It's telling me I need to switch to this directory.
Yeah.
It's that thing I showed you. I need to now link subscription. You remember I was in the resource group. Because the
Yes.
resource group I provisioned this Masamoro when we provisioning it. So if I switch back to the primary tenant, see, okay. All right. So if I go back here, so I'm back to my main directory. So I go to external ID here and I go to link subscriptions, meaning that if I select this tenant here, select, I can link the subscription on this tenant, right?
Hmm.
So the resource group, this was the resource where I provisioned the B2C tenant.
Okay. 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 Okay.
Since I click on apply now. So that means if I want to provision resources on that tenant, so far I select this resource group.
Okay. Okay. You'll be able to provision
So
those
it's
resources.
inside that tenant. So
Okay.
if I go to my resource group here on the PTC, well, let me just do it. I don't want to leave it for now. Resource groups. So I just need to see resource group. I'm not sure that's the name.
Or should do refresh?
Let me refresh. I'll go to the other direction. Let me refresh first. Let me switch to that directory and go to resource group there. Yeah, I'm going to find it here. Switch here. Because the B2C tenant is actually depending on the main tenant. So you're not expected to have different subscriptions. To be able to, by logic, one subscription can use it, except the organization have multiple subscriptions. So let me go here, go to resource group here. So it's not even showing any resource group. So this all happen when there is no subscriptions. Our resources to take me back here. So let's switch back to the tenants. So we know that Microsoft Entra SNID combines powerful solutions for working with people outside your organizations. Meaning that with external ID capabilities, you can allow external identities to securely access your applications and resources. So whether you're working with external partners, you're working with consumers or business customers, users can bring their own identity. And this identity can be a range from corporate, government issue accounts to social identities like Google or Facebook, as we saw it. And now, in terms of for scenario generally for the Microsoft Entra ID, you want to be able to do three things: accelerate secure app development, because the essence is to bring in partners to help you accelerate application development. Maybe the developers are not full-time staff in your organization, right? They're just contractors that you're working with. You know,
Or
with the
consultants?
Entra, or consultant exactly. With the Entra external ID now, you can accelerate secure app development, and you want to create a seamless user experience for those users. At the same time, you want to secure the user access. And in terms of scope, the scenario falls within the scope of external Entra ID, meaning that if you're an organization or you're a developer that is creating a consumer app, you can use external ID to quickly add authentication and also customer identity and access management (CM) to your applications. You can register your applications. You can create customized signing experience and manage your application's users
Mm-hmm.
in the Microsoft Entra ID tenant, especially in an external configuration. And this tenant is separate from your employee and organization resources. That's the beauty of it. It is separate from your employee and your organization resources. And if you want to also enable your employees to collaborate with business partners and guests, you can use the external ID for B2B collaboration, right? Which
Yeah.
allows secure access to your enterprise applications through either invitation or a self-service sign-up, and determine the level of access a guest have to the Microsoft Entra ID tenants, which contains your employee and also your organization resources, which is actually a tenant in a workforce configurations. So being a flexible solution for both customer-oriented application developers needing authentication and SIAM, and also a business seeking secure B2B collaboration. So that's what Entra External ID does for you. And you can secure your app for consumers and also business consumers. How? Organizations and developers can use the external ID in the external tenants as their CM solution, as you're seeing. So when publishing their apps to customers and also business customers, right, you can create a separate Entra tenant in an external configuration, which allows you to basically manage your applications and also user accounts separately from your workflows. Um, Within this tenant, you can also easily create a custom branded sign-up experience and as well as user management features. So that's some of the things that the Entra ID external access does for you. You can set up a self-service registration flow that defines a series of sign-up steps users follows, and also the sign-in method they can use, such as email and password, one-time passcode, or even social accounts from Google or Facebook. You can also do what we call a custom look and feel for users signing into your applications by configuring company branding, right? Settings for your tenants. Now with
Okay.
that, with those settings, you can add your own background image, you can add your colors, you can even have your company logo and also text to customize the signing experience across your application. And you can also collect information from customer, like you mentioned, during sign up by selecting from a series of built-in user attributes or adding your own custom attributes, like you saw. And most importantly, you can also analyze user activity and also engagement data to uncover valuable insights that can add strategic decision and drive business goals. So meaning with external ID, customers can sign up with an identity they already have. They don't need to start creating a fresh identity. And you can customize and control how customers sign up and sign in when using your application, right? With the user flow,
Mm-hmm.
because again, the same capabilities are actually built into the external ID. And you also benefit from intra-platform features like using enhanced security as well as compliance and scalability. So every feature that Azure itself offers, right, it can provide them for you, basically. Then
Okay.
another thing you can also note when you want to collaborate with business guests, right? These are not just customers. their business guests. So that's where the intra-ID B2B collaboration actually champions. Like it allows your workforce to collaborate with external business partners. You can invite anyone to sign into your intra organization by using their own credentials so they can access applications and also resources you want to share with them. So with B2B collaborations, you just need to let the business to access your office applications, software service applications. They can also access your line of business applications, right? And there are
Mm-hmm.
no credentials associated with your business guests. Instead, what they need to do is they authenticate with their own original organization or identity provider. Then your organization checks the user eligibility for guest collaborations. So we also saw things around the guest collaboration when we talk about this external collaboration settings. Now, if you want to differentiate between what are workforce and external tenants, right? For a tenant itself, it's a
Mm-hmm.
dedicated and a trusted instance of Microsoft Entra ID that contains an organization resources, including registered apps and also a directory for users. Meaning there are two ways to configure a tenant, depending on how the organization intends to use the tenant and the resources they want to manage. For example, a workforce tenant configuration is a standard Microsoft Entra tenant that contains your employee. It contains your internal business application and other organization resources. Meaning in a workforce tenant, your internal users can collaborate with external business partners and guests using B2B collaboration. Whereas when you talk about external tenant configuration, we use it exclusively for application you want to publish to customers or business customers.
Okay.
So that's different now. So
Okay.
it follows the same standard Entra ID model, but it's configured for consumer scenario. It contains your app registration and also the directory for your customers and customers accounts.
Okay.
Otherwise, the entire ID contains users in your organization. That's talking about the workforce tenants. That one contains users in your organizations and
Yeah.
also applications, line of business
Mm-hmm.
application, and even share of space application. It consists of that also. Yeah, basically. Then
Makes sense.
also, yeah, if you want to compare the Entra external ID feature sets, right, for both workforce tenants as well as external tenants, in terms of scenario, all your workforce, it allows all your workforce to collaborate with business guests. It lets guests use their preferred identity to sign into the resources in your Microsoft Entra organization and provide access to your Microsoft application or your own applications that are custom developed. Examples, you can invite guests to sign into your Microsoft account and become guest members. But for external ID in external tenant now, for the main scenario for that one is that it publish apps to external customers and business customers using external ID for identity experience, meaning it provides identity and access management for modern SaaS custom developed application, not the first party Microsoft application.
Mm.
Yeah, for that, you just create a customized signing experience for users of your consumer mobile app, and also you monitor the app usage. And the intention for the workforce tenant is basically collaboration with business partners from external organizations like suppliers, partners, vendors.
Yeah.
And most times, these users they might or might not have Microsoft Entra ID or
Yeah.
even have an IT department. But
Sure.
for the external ID now, it's majorly for consumer and business customer of their apps. meaning that these users are managed in a Microsoft Entra ID tenant that is configured for external apps and users. So as users sign into those applications, their ID will be added in that directory, not in your main organization directory. And if you want to look at in terms of user management, the B2B collaboration users are managed in the same workforce tenant as employee, but they are typically annotated as guest users. So when you see them as guest users.
That is
And
for
guest
B2.
users can, yeah, for B2B, yes. And guest users can also, be managed the same way as employees.
You said can be same way managed as
Yes, as
employees,
employees.
guest
You can add
users.
them to groups, yes. If you go
Oh,
here,
oh,
I'm not talking about I'm talking about guest users that have been invited to your tenants. If I go
I
to
understand.
groups, for
Yes,
example, yeah. Mhm. But because they are guest users, why
yes.
for B2C? They are app users.
hmm
That's a
We are
different
talking
thing
of
now.
B2B. We are talking of
B2B,
B2B
there.
now. Yeah.
Yes, B2B. I'm comparing the two for you now.
hmm
B2B are guest users. Why B2C? They are app users. Because our
App
focus
user.
is just app. Yes.
App. Exactly.
So app users, they are managed in an external tenant that you create for consumers of the applications. That means users in the external tenants, they have a different default permission than users in your workforce tenants. They are managed in the internet, in the external tenants, separate from your organization employee directory. Because for this particular employee directory now, you can see the guest users there, but you cannot see the app user here.
It's not possible.
It's not possible. Yeah.
Mm.
So there's also another feature called single sign-on SSO. So
Yeah.
basically, SSO to all Microsoft Entra connected apps is supported for B2B. For example, you can provide access to Microsoft 365 or on-prem applications and other SaaS applications like the Salesforce, the Workday, and etc. But for the app user, SSO to app registered in the external tenant is supported. SSO to Microsoft 365 or other Microsoft SaaS applications is not supported. So they can only do
Sorry.
SSO
Sorry. Do you want
to
to take
the.
that? Sorry. Do you want to take that SSO again, please? Sorry.
All right, no problem. So single sign-on now for
hmm
B2B, SSO to all Entra connected app is supported. All, all app. For example, you can provide access to M365. You can provide access to on-prem applications or to other SaaS applications like Salesforce or Workday if your organization is using those SaaS applications.
hmm
But to the app users, SSO to app registered in the external tenant is supported only to the app. So they don't have SSO to M365 or other Microsoft SaaS apps isn't supported for the app users.
Are you referring
That
to the
means
B2C now?
for B2C now, yes.
Okay.
So when I say
But the
app
B2C
users,
will not need, yeah, I understand when you say app users, you're referring to the B2C.
the
But they would
B2C,
not
yes.
need they will not need SSOs anyway. You don't have any business with them, right? As regards to SSO.
Exactly, exactly. But sometimes, right?
hmm
Sometimes, like for me now, even though it's not a best practice, the Gmail account I use it for a lot of other applications.
Okay.
You understand now?
Mm.
Even though the password might be different, right? But I can make
Okay.
it in such a way that I'm using the same credential and password. Like sometimes in some application will be like, okay, sign up with your Gmail account. What does it mean?
Exactly.
It's that Gmail account I'm using to sign. So if I use that Gmail account also to sign up for another application, it's the same thing. You
Mm.
understand that? So that
I get
SSO is
you.
across
That's still
across yeah.
SSO. Yeah, that's true.
SSO,
That's
yes.
true. That's true. That's true.
Then for the company branding, for B2B, the default state of the authentication experience is the Microsoft look and feel. So administrator can configure, guest signing experience with their company branding. So if you type if you go to Entra ID here, for example, now, and you go to company branding, so there is a default company branding already for Microsoft. But if you want to customize, you can customize the experience yeah, for your users. So this will apply to internal and external users, internal and B2B users, right? Anything you want to change it by the time you configure this. Why for B2C? It was a default branding for external tenants, right? That is created. It doesn't have any Microsoft branding. That
Mm.
means it is you as the administrator, when you're creating the B2C experience, you have to customize the branding for the organization or per application for the B2C. You understand that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I might choose not to configure anything. That's what it means for this one. So that means when user want to sign in, they will automatically use the default branding. If I go here, if I type in office.com. So this is the default from Microsoft, right? But if I don't want this, I want to change it here. If I don't want this, I can change all this experience from here. Do you understand? I can change
Okay.
them from here. But for B2C tenants, you don't have this default. That's what it means. This default that Microsoft has provided, you don't have it. That means at the point of creating that B2C, the experience for signing up, you have to create the branding yourself for users.
Okay. Okay.
That's what it means, right? So
Yeah.
administrator can customize the branding for the either per organization or per application.
Mm.
So there are some old times that I want us to look at, but might not be able to look at things. The things around talking about some related technologies to enter ID, right? Because
Okay.
if you want to design different external ID collaboration model, there are different things to consider. Do you want to create a B2B direct connect,
Mm.
or do you want to create Azure Active Directory B2C experience, or do you want to create Microsoft Entra entitlement management for business just sign up, or do you want to
Mm.
create Microsoft Entra Microsoft Graph API for B2B collaboration? Then those those models, so the technology, what you want to do depend on the technology, right? For the B2B direct connect, for example, now, what this one does, like it's lets you to create a two-way trust relationship with other Microsoft Entra organization. That means you have an organization and you have a partner organization, and what they are also using is a Microsoft Entra ID, right? So you can
Yeah.
create a two-way trust relationship, right, with the organization to enable the team connect share channel features, right? For the team connect share channel features, right, it allows us to sign into Teams shared channel for chat, for call, for file sharing, and even for application sharing. Meaning that when two organizations mutually enable B2B direct connect, user authentication in their own organization and receive a token from the resource organization for access. Let me give you a typical example. I want to give you a very live example. So this my account here. This my account here. I have access to other tenants, other directory,
Okay.
like this directory, for example. Now, if I'm going to sign into this directory,
Mm-hmm.
what is going to do for me with my account? Oh, okay. Don't let me. This is personal account. I'll let you use another Entra ID governance directory. Actually, I actually did it yesterday because when I have B2B direct connect, right? What happened
Mm-hmm.
is that in terms of the sign up experience,
Yeah.
you're going to authenticate to your own directory. So that means if this user is going to sign in now, it's going to authenticate to this directory,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to sign in using MFA, multi-factor authentication, right? Using the code,
Mm-hmm.
The code will be provided by the second directory. That's what is happening.
Oh,
So that means on the Microsoft authentication application, I wish I have this. I have like a screenshot of. So I'll have an account in this directory. If I sign into this directory, right? If I sign
yes.
into this directory, let me try that. Let me sign into this particular directory, so you can see how its experience is like. Let me go to portal.azure.com. Yeah, I didn't sign out from this account. That's an account I'm trying to recover. So it's the same experience actually. So this is that's actually a different tenant. I'm trying to recover that tenant. I changed my phone so I could not sign into the tenant because the authentication wasn't coming to my new phone.
Okay.
I was trying to recover it earlier. I hope it doesn't steal. Okay. So I'm signing into this directory now, this particular directory. So it's my Gmail directory, right? Oh, I remember the password. So I changed the password separately for this account. Okay, where's my phone to authenticate?
Yes, approve.
Okay, approve. Trying to approve the request. Okay, it has been approved. Okay, just for now. Mm. So this was the default directory, right? That was created for me. It's fine. Now if I go to enter ID and I go to manage here and I click on users. Now, these are other email accounts that have access to this directory.
Okay.
So this account here,
Yes.
right,
Yes.
is the same account here that was created when I invited the guy. When I
Okay.
invited this guy
Mm-hmm.
as a guest here, when I invited as a guest here, so this account was created for the guy here. This was the account that was created.
Okay.
So if
Good.
I'm in this if I let me minimize this now. If I switch to this directory now, so this is directory here. If I
Uh-huh.
switch to this directory now, this code is coming from the other directory. But because I've changed my phone, I can't even sign into the directory. I have to re-invite the user again. So at the moment, I don't have that particular user in. Because when I changed my phone, I didn't back up my authentication. So there was no way I could. Let me see, let's sign another way. It will not. So it will not pop up because I changed my phone, right? So what is providing this? What is providing this? I was able to sign in normally, right, with this account. It's the same account, I only changed the user surface here. So I changed it from this invarious.org to this mm, it's the same account, right? So I can't even access that particular directory because the authentication is not coming from my directory because this was the name of the user from the directory before I changed it. So because I've already scattered it, I've already changed the user surface here. So it's not even bringing the code again. So meaning
Okay.
that I will need to now invite this new user as a guest. So if I put the new name now, because it's still seeing the
Uh,
old name, so it's not
yes.
providing authentication.
Hmm.
So if I invite this new guy now, he's going to create an account. Let me invite. Okay. Let
Invite
me
session.
refresh first. This success. Let me refresh. I'm just going to bring the name. Okay. Let me go accept the invitation first. Okay. Let me. So I've invited the user. So I'm accepting the invitation now. Okay. Okay. So invitation has been accepted. Let me refresh this now. So it still didn't create the user for me. Now let me try to
But why so?
accept. It's maybe it's the same identity. So what I just changed was just this name, this suffix at the back. So we see still seeing the same identity. So let me try to sign into that directory. It's going to give me a proof. I'm just going to send a code this time around. So maybe most likely what I now need to do, right, is to completely remove this user from this tenant because the name, the ID doesn't change. What do I mean? If you go to proxies, this guy, this object ID is the same thing.
Hmm.
So you cannot create a user with the same object ID. So separately, let me remove this.
Delete it.
Not to go to deleted users, so delete it completely. Deleted users. Let me remove it completely from the tenant and see. One and E. Station refresh. It's done. Let me go back to inviting the user again. We'll pick it up from there tomorrow.
Don't
Well,
worry.
I'm just trying to explain how the B2B. So the code that you use to actually authenticate would be from this tenant. Why? Because I'm trying to sign into this particular tenant.
Okay.
But I've signed into my own into my own home tenant already. The only thing is that that code to grant authentication into this tenant has to come from this particular tenant.
Okay.
Let's
Okay.
pick from there tomorrow.
Okay.
So it has created the user here already
Okay.
now. Let me see if it's going to allow my notification.
Yes, it is
No,
a lot of troubleshooting.
because yeah, because it's seeing the same accounts basically. Because it's the same object ID. Obviously, what Microsoft uses at the back end, what they're using is object ID. Because username can change to anything
Okay.
tomorrow. But object
Okay. So
ID
it's the
once
object ID that they are using.
yes, yes, is what is used at the back end to troubleshoot. If you want to troubleshoot user now, like if I want to do what's called add matching or sub matching now, is object ID I will need. See, user is no longer here. That directory is no longer here. It has removed,
Ah, it's no longer there.
it's no longer there. That's removed. All right, let's pause there for today. We'll pick it up from there tomorrow. Yeah.
No worries.
Any questions so far? It's an
No.
interesting session, yeah.
Yeah.